What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to the CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in the West Loop, downtown Chicago. Happy Tuesday. I'm Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. Join with my guy, Will the Go Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb. Our pal and producer, Joey Spathis, a.k.a. Joey1K. And filling in the Big Dave middle chair today. If you are a diehard Bulls fan, you know and love and appreciate his coverage that he's been doing for the last couple of years on Bleacher Nation Bulls. Also just recently joined the Bulls and NBA podcasting crew with points in the podcast. Give it up for the one and only Elias Schuster joining us in studio.
Oh, wow.
What up, buddy? Welcome.
Wow, what a remarkable intro. That's so nice. But yeah, I have big shoes to fill, literally and figuratively, sitting in this Big Dave seat. So I appreciate the invite, and Big Dave out there. I'll try to do you justice, but we'll see.
Knowing Big Dave, I'm sure he's happy to have you sitting in his seat for a day.
That would mean the world. That would mean the world.
Y'all can follow along with Eli's coverage of the Bulls on Twitter at Schuster_Elias. Also, Bleacher Nation Bulls, BN_Bulls, right?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. I'm a follower. Y'all should be too. We'll get Eli's thoughts on the Bulls offseason, the season ahead, just 2 weeks removed from training camp. But before that, whenever we talk with other Bulls content creators, people who cover the Bulls, we always like to get a little bit more intel on their backstory and how they feel about what they do, providing content for our fellow Bulls fans. So what was it that motivated you to get into the world of sports media and covering the Bulls in particular?
Well, I mean, I think, growing up, probably like everybody here, I'm from the Chicagoland area. You grow up a big Chicago sports fan. You grow up a big Bulls fan. And I think for me, I went to school initially, and an Illini alum, if there's anyone here.
Oh, but plenty of them
yeah, there's plenty
here,
of them. But yeah, I went to school initially studying journalism. I thought, a path into... I never really knew if like a path into sports would work out. You never really know,
Sure.
going into it. So I was just like, I guess I'll just work news. I'll do whatever. But, once you're at a Big Ten university, you see like some avenues where you can kind of get your foot in the door and try to work hard in that sphere. You do that. So, that's what I did. And then I was like, man, it would be fun if I could also end up doing something like writing about the Bulls for a living. Like that would be awesome if I could find a way to make that a fun thing. So, working hard. I got Bleacher Nation, is a great website. They brought me on to do some Bulls coverage, which is awesome, and I've appreciated it ever since. And while the Bulls have not kind of returned the favor, it's fine. It's something that I love to do, and it's been a fun ride.
Well, we were just chatting earlier that you were brought on by Bleacher Nation to start covering the Bulls for them at the beginning of the first full Jim Boylan season.
Yeah, I believe so. If you can go deep into the archives, and you'll see I found plenty of articles that I initially wrote on Jim Boylan. Please don't go look up those, because one, also probably the writing isn't going to be nearly as good. Not saying it's great now, but it definitely wasn't going to be great then. And the Jim Boylan year was the first time that I really jumped on the saddle, and it took me for a ride for sure.
It was a tough time to be providing daily content. This guy was over covering the Warriors on the West Coast, just living the life.
Well, I was also covering the Bulls from afar.
From afar, yeah. The Jim Boylan years feels like a fever dream. Like it doesn't feel weird.
I feel like it wasn't real life.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's just like one of those legends that maybe happened, maybe it didn't. But
it was real life, because I still have PTSD.
Yeah,
trust me.
I see a bald head.
Where's the neuralizer?
Yeah.
Was it always the Bulls for you, or were you more Cubs or Sox fan growing up, or Bears? Like, what was your?
I was definitely
allegiances lie.
Well, my allegiances were always Cubs, Bulls, Bears. So it was those three, and I would say all pretty equally. And different state each year. It's different depending on who's doing great, and you when you're younger and you're gonna follow that team a little bit harder. But those were like my primary three growing up, and I think the Bulls years, especially with the early baby Bulls time, it gets fun, but then you Kirk Heinrich, Ben Gordon, that's fun, and then it gets into the D Rose years, and that really sucks you in more. And so, I was pretty young for the Jordan stuff. Unfortunately, didn't get to experience that to the fullest. But so it is kind of shocking that I still loved the team as much as I did growing up. But it was, I would say it was all Chicago sports for me.
That's always my question, and I think for a lot of people, for the Bulls especially, the answer is the D Rose MVP year. But I'll broaden it to Cubs and Bears too. Was there a single season for all three of those teams that was just like your favorite ever to root for.
Oh.
And I'll say like before 2016.
Yeah, I was going to
Cubs,
say,
because
you want
that's
to
kind of
throw
when
out
we
the Cubs.
16 World Series has got to be the default answer, right?
Oof. I would have to go back and like look back and try to trigger my memories for it, but I would say, I feel like for me, for Cubs at least, like when Starlin Castro first came up, that was like, I just remember loving that and loving him. So that was a very exciting time. That just jumps to my head initially. And then for the Bears, like following the Super Bowl season was crazy, obviously, even though that ended up in tragedy. There's not many good Bears years to point to, but then following it jumps to mind Jay Cutler on the bike. That jumps to mind. That season was fun until that
2010
happened.
NFC Championship game.
Exactly. So there's moments here, but unfortunately, as we sit here and we can talk about it with the Bulls too. Obviously, there's not a ton of great years to point to.
Yeah.
Like especially when you take away 2016, it's a small sample size. But I could pinpoint players, like I said, like Castro growing up. I was excited for him. I always loved Alfonso Soriano. I always loved.
Big Soriano guy.
I was a huge Brandon Marshall fan when he was in Chicago, but also even like before, I have a throwback Brandon Marshall Dolphins. Like it's called a lights out jersey. It's like all black with like orange number. It's very strange, but it's a Brandon Marshall jersey from his time with the Dolphins. So he was a guy that I loved when he was in Chicago, and then plenty of Bulls, obviously.
So someone who covers the Bulls on a daily basis and honestly outwardly basis, we do 5 Bulls shows a week, even through those dog days of the offseason. And most of our listeners and viewers out there who are familiar with your work know that you're doing the same thing in written form for Bleacher Nation 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
I mean, there are days constantly where I'm like, holy, is this the 3rd or 4th or 5th column that Eli has put out on Bleacher Nation Bulls today?
You make me look so bad.
Okay, so 2-part question. A, do you ever sleep? And B, is there a certain thing that you like to do? Because you cover every nook and cranny of Bulls news, other noteworthy things happening across the NBA. Is there a specific style or kind of article you like to write covering the Bulls in the NBA? Because you cover a lot of bases doing what you do.
Right. Well, I mean, it's nice of you to point that out. It's a thing where, when you're ready, yes, I put out a lot of articles, especially like around like certain times you're going to put out a lot of stuff. And I think that's the notion on BN, right? Or like at Bleacher Nation, like some of them might be like pretty brief. Some of them honestly might be a little sloppy because I'm just like off the top of the noggin trying to get stuff down on paper. But it's kind of like if someone were to go live and give you immediate thoughts. That's like a lot of times what we're trying to do, but in written form at the site, so you can go and it's always a rolling feed of like, here's what we're thinking. And so yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot of material. I do sleep. However, if a phone, like, there's usually stuff that doesn't happen at odd hours. But if it's like a trade deadline or something, I remember I think it was like last year because we'll write some national stories up, especially around the trade deadline. And,
right.
There's always those trades that break at like 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
So I don't remember exactly what trade it was, but like last year I was sleeping, woke up to like go to the bathroom, saw my phone at like 3 a.m. that a trade happened like 30 minutes before. So I was like, I guess I'll write it up. So that I just was in bed trying not to wake up.
Those dreaded Woj and Shams alert tweets that come through your notifications.
Yeah. So
if the Bulls sign any more Exhibit 10 deals, we might have to postpone this episode.
If there's an Exhibit 10 deal, you're gonna see me just frantically because that's so important. No, but if there's like a favorite thing I love to do or to write about is when you obviously get more time to sit down and write. I would say what it's more of just like a think piece. Like you sit there and you go like, I'm just going to kind of talk about my overarching thoughts on where the team's at, talk about, and then I also enjoy like some of those, I guess deeper dives on a specific player in season. Like when I have some time to sit down and really look at like, oh, here are some, advanced Caruso stats you may not know. And then you can throw that in there. So, but it's always also like developing. I like how, being able to write a lot of different kind of things is fun, but then you find new things that you like doing and new ways to hopefully improve that. So I always tell people who are reading at Bleacher Nation, my goal is like, I hope the content is always improving, always, diversifying. Like I want a different kinds of material. And like I said, I know some of the articles are short, like they signed this Exhibit 10 guide. It doesn't really matter, but that's what we're here to do. We obsess about the team so you don't have to.
Exactly.
And if that minor move was made, I still want you to know about it. Yeah. And here's what you need to know.
Speaking of stepping into new things, how long ago did you launch Points in the podcast? It's fairly new.
It was at first just kind of like it was like my baby. I was just doing it for, well, I guess Yeah, it was my baby, but it was just like a brain thing I made up that I was just trying to do on the side for fun.
Yeah.
And then we more seriously this off season decided to try to make it into a more consistent thing and not just like me sharing some thoughts about the NBA. So now it's a little bit more of a regular weekly show that we record, and it's about the NBA as a whole. So hopefully I'm bringing a little bit of what we do at Bleacher Nation, the way we think about, sports in general at Bleacher Nation, bringing that to the podcast at more of just a whole NBA and giving you, my goal with that show is just each week giving you like, here's what you need to know to get you caught up on NBA news, giving you some thoughts on those NBA news, and just making sure everybody's caught up with where the league's at, because there's a lot to follow, you know.
Right.
So I was hoping that podcast could be a source for people to just get caught up on like the key things and maybe some things that they miss, especially in season. I hope that's what we can do, because like I said, it's hard to follow. A lot of people follow their team, but maybe we can help them have a better idea of like what's going on around the league.
Are you enjoying podcasting maybe more than you thought you were? Because this was not like, you talked about going to journalism school and doing BN as a writer, but then picking up podcasting. How have you thought about that?
I like
so
it.
far?
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, in like at school, I did a lot of I did like some, in college I would do some announcing on the side. I would do some audio work. I actually did a lot of video work. That's what at first I thought I was going to probably end up working more in just the digital media side of video editing and things like that. I did a lot of video work, but I always like to put my foot in different areas. That's what I've always loved about this industry, is there's a lot of different ways you can get your content out there.
Absolutely.
And podcasting for me has definitely been fun so far. It's something that I also hope to get better at. It would love to get as good as you guys are at it, but it's just a fun way for me to sprinkle in something new. So.
Takes daily reps.
Practice makes perfect. Yeah. We took this sports journalist over here and have begrudgingly over time made him someone who embraces the podcasting side of things.
I was not prepared to like daily podcasting as much as I do. I was surprised by it.
Well, doing it daily, that's a lot. I know you talk about how many articles I'm doing and stuff, but daily podcast, that's huge. I don't think people listening, everyone aren't going to fully understand that doing it takes a lot, and it's not just sitting in your room doing it. Like the way you can see the people watching online, like the way they do this is very legit. It's very professional, and that takes a ton of work, and people don't understand.
Heard it here
It
first.
does. And that's, those are the diehards that we want to provide that content for.
Right.
Whether it's you writing your articles for Bleacher Nation or us doing these shows at CHGO 5 days a week in the off season when there's literally nothing to talk about on some days. And you say, well, there's not anything to talk about that's staring us in the face in our news feeds this morning, so let's make something up to talk about. Because those are the fans that you provide those off-season shows and articles for, that you're like, they care as much as we care, and if they're willing to tune in to 5 NBA shows a week in August or read your columns in August, good for them.
If you read a BN post in August, you don't know how much I appreciate you.
Exactly. Those are the ones that we do this for. Are there any, speaking of you covering the NBA at large with your points of the podcast, are there NBA pods that are always in your wheel, in your rotation, that are like your go-tos,
Other than CHGO Bulls, of course.
Well, I mean, that's a local, but example, obviously, I listen to every new episode of Low Post when it drops. He just picked back up after taking some time off. Hoop Collective, Ringer, who are your NBA, national NBA pod go-tos?
I mean, honestly, you named them there. It's probably not anything too unique. It's those guys because they're, and they're the main guys for a reason. So I think, like Low Post, definitely the Ringer stuff's good. The Hoops Collective stuff. Dunker Spot's a good one. There's ton. And what I love about those is that they are so different in terms of what they are. What they're offering. There's a lot of good shows out there that offer maybe a look at the X's and O's versus a look at just the trending storylines or so there's a lot of good options. There's a lot of great NBA pods. It's a competitive market to get into, but it's also if you just literally search basketball pods, you're gonna find at least 3 that you like.
There are now 6 billion basketball podcasts that exist.
Well, and I honestly do if I see one and I'm like, oh, this one seems interesting, and I'll just turn on and give it a listen if I've never heard of it before or whatever, just to see what's this one like and what do they have to offer. So and that's what's fun about it, is I like that there's a big pool there.
Indeed. All right, we got to take our first break here. When we come back, we'll dive in and get Eli's thoughts on what exactly the Bulls did this offseason, whether or not he's a believer in it, and where the Bulls go from here. While we're sharing these words for our friends and sponsors, do us a quick, simple favor. If you're hanging out watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And, of course, if you aren't already, go ahead and subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Will, tell the fine people out there in Bulls Nation about how they can watch all their sports this season with Fubo TV.
Fubo TV? You mean the place that has 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news?
That place, yes.
That's a place where you can stream live TV from any device. You can watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price, and you start watching immediately with a free trial. There's no contract, no cable, no hassle. You just sign up and you start watching. For sickos like me, they've also got 1,000 hours of cloud DVRs. You can rewatch the Bears' loss week after week after week.
God, hard
and
pass.
You can watch them while you're traveling. They've got college football, Big Ten, NFL, Bears, NFL Network, Red Zone, Euro qualifiers, Ryder Cup. They've got it all. Watch your favorite college football and NFL with Fubo. Go to www.fubotv.com/CHGO to sign up for 15% off your first month with Fubo Pro.
Today's show also brought to you by our friend Charlie the Bacon Guy. That's right. There's a person whose name is Charlie the Bacon Guy. You know why his name's Charlie the Bacon Guy? Because he makes delicious bacon in all kinds of flavors, and you should be eating it. Charlie the Bacon Guy is based out of Woodridge, Illinois. He makes craft bacon and bacon jams in over 30 different flavors. The product is always all natural, no fancy preservatives in that product. You can order it. You can order lots of it because it's vacuum sealed and it freezes great. The bacon from Charlie lasts in the package up to 45 days in your fridge, 6 months in your freezer. The bacon jam, 60 days in your fridge. And, you know, if we're being honest, you don't need to worry about how long it lasts in your fridge or your freezer because it's that delicious. You will eat all of it as soon as it arrives. They've got a bunch of flavors, as I said, including maple pepper, French toast. I had a couple slices of that French toast bacon that Charlie brought to the office this summer. Unbelievable. Chorizo, and for you Chicago eaters out there, he even makes jardiniere bacon. That's right. Those two words put together. Think about that in your brain for a second. Jardiniere flavored bacon. What more could you want? The bacon jam goes perfectly on anything. Scrambled eggs, toast, crackers, burgers, grilled cheese, or just straight out of the jar. Eat it with a spoon. Bacon jam. You can find Charlie the Bacon Guy on Instagram at Charlie the Bacon Guy, on Twitter at CZ the Bacon Guy. You can send your orders to him via email, charliethebaconguy@gmail.com, until he gets that website up and running, which will be very soon. But again, that's charliethebaconguy@gmail.com. Send him what you want. What you want is bacon. Charlie the Bacon Guy will get it to you.
Can you explain to me what is bacon jam?
Oh my gosh, you never had bacon
I've never
jam?
had bacon jam.
I've had bacon jam.
Am I in for a real treat?
So, okay, basically
Lawrence just came out of an office hearing me say that. He's like, oh my God, you got to hear about this.
So people have different recipes for bacon jams, but essentially just picture
Is it just like
bacon,
good
good bacon bits, right? So you fry up a bunch of bacon, chop it into bacon bits, and then add some combination of grilled onions that have also been diced up. You add a little bit of reduction in there. People can take their bacon jams in different flavors and various consistencies, but it basically is the consistency of jam, but made out of bacon.
Okay. I'm
I
on
don't
board.
like a grilled cheese.
I mean, I was already
pretty
on
good.
board. I knew I was going to be on board. I
Yeah.
just needed to know specifics.
Oh, bacon jam is great. All right, let's dive in to some Bulls talk with our guy Elias Schuster from Bleacher Nation Bulls. Well, okay, people in the comments are talking about it. NBA people are talking about it. So before we get your thoughts on the offseason, let's just address this because it's the elephant in the room. Multiple people in the comments saying, Damian Lillard? You just showed me a trade machine earlier today, Goat. Damian Lillard? Broom saying, give Dame the key to the city, make it happen. Brooms is here saying, I'm here for you to tell me the Dame in Chicago is happening soon. Demond asking, what would you trade to get Dame? We addressed this briefly on our show yesterday, Will. I personally think this is not happening. But, Eli, where do you land on all of this Dame Lillard trade request chaos and the fact that there's a mystery team in the Eastern Conference other than Miami that's trying to make a deal happen?
Well, I want to. I don't know. I don't know if I don't want to disappoint anyone listening, but I have to imagine that the mystery Eastern Conference team is not the Chicago Bulls. My guess would be maybe like the Raptors, somebody like that.
Raptors have been floated a few times.
I think that would make a lot of sense considering we've seen them do something similar with Kawhi before.
I feel like they're more in the business though of just letting their players walk in free agency for nothing, as opposed to like trading for guys. I don't know.
What, Toronto?
Toronto.
Yeah, it does seem that way. After
knows? Maybe
but
I'm
hey, look but also. I mean, the Houston deal that they gave Fred that's unbelievable. He's gonna make a fun fact. Fred VanVleet will make more money than Zach LaVine this year. That's a pretty crazy thing to think about. But yeah, I mean, look for Chicago. Them going after Dame. While I think it would be great, it would be super fun to see him in Chicago. I don't see any world in which a deal can get done there without maybe a third team getting involved somehow. Also, what's kind of the point if you end up moving Dame for like Zach, let's say, is involved in the trade? Like, I think the whole point would be having maybe that duo together. So I don't see where the I don't know. I just don't see exactly how it would make too much sense and where it would be, where they'd be able to pull it off. It would be a lot of strings to pull.
Yeah, I think separating for a second the idea of like, would they or should they do it from are they going to do it? Like, the are they going to do it part? Yeah, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a no. Yeah.
Probably not going to happen.
Wait, the first word out of your mouth after you posed that question to yourself was, yeah. So maybe they are going to do it. You said, yeah, no.
Yeah, maybe no.
Yeah, maybe
so
no.
Do I think they will do it? No. If they do it, though, could I get excited about Damian Lillard being in Chicago? Sure. But to your point, I wonder like how that actually works out on paper. I mean, I don't see the Blazers being interested in Zach LaVine if they're going full rebuild, or DeMar DeRozan, because it would have to be around one of those two guys.
Especially with Shane Sharp there and with Scoot, obviously. But yeah, I
and
just
Simons,
don't see the fit.
I mean, like, that's the direction you want your team to be going. So you need to involve a third team, to your point. And I'm just not sure who that team is that wants to take on a Zach LaVine or a DeMar DeRozan, send picks to the Blazers, and also maybe the Blazers get like a couple of picks from the Bulls or like one of their young players. I mean, I don't know. It just becomes really complicated. These 3-team deals are really difficult to conceive of in your mind. But I mean, if there was a way that they could bring in Dame while keeping like one of Zach or DeMar plus Vooch plus, not giving up Coby or Patrick, I feel like you'd get kind of excited about that.
I think I'd get excited about it, but I think my question would also be, as particularly if you were to, let's pretend it was to get rid of Zach, right? I think my question immediately goes like, okay, well, what is that team's ceiling? Like, is it now just you get knocked out in the second round? Is that what the ceiling is? Are they an Eastern Conference Finals team? Like, if you don't have Zach there next to Dame, like my question immediately goes like, okay, yeah, your team is more exciting, especially for Bulls fans, but how good are they really? I don't know, because in Portland we saw a great Dame and CJ duo for a long time, only make it to one Western Conference Finals and repeatedly get bounced in either the first or second round. So for me, I just don't know exactly. And it's nothing against Dame. I love Dame as a player, and he's super exciting. I just think my question, if LaVine isn't there to help with that, and even if LaVine's there, honestly, you can ask a little bit of the question. But especially if LaVine's gone, I don't know exactly how much higher the Bulls' ceiling is with, Dame, DeMar, Vooch, and other depleted assets because you gave them up in a Dame trade.
Yeah, I think the where it gets tricky is like, so then are you just like a slightly better version of yourself in the present while also having mortgaged your future even more?
Yeah. Right.
But I guess like what it really comes down to is like, how championship or bust mind are you? Do you feel like the only way to operate is to try to win titles and anything else is like not worth trying? Or do you feel like going all in to get to a better team, a second round team, like I think a lot of people would be happy about that. I don't know. Where do you lie on like championship or bust mentality?
The one big thing, and I don't know if this is something that we would get into naturally later, but I just think for me, I do have a problem with the way that the front office just kind of took their foot off the gas, right? Because like immediately we saw them in that 2 years ago, or 2 summers ago, or whatever it was, go aggressive in free agency. You get DeMar, the trade deadline before that, you get Vooch, you blow up the whole roster, you add Lonzo, you went full force steam ahead to make this team a win now group. And then what do you do the next like 3-4 transaction periods? Absolutely nothing. You did nothing at that trade deadline while your team was a borderline, it was a 1 seed for a while, dropped down to obviously the 6 seed that first year with the core. But there was a case to be made that, like, okay, you should be trying to add more then, because you were clearly a pretty good team. You were a top 6 team, and they decided, no, okay, we like our group. And then last season, heading into it, you just had Drummond and Dragic, and then at the trade deadline, you do nothing again. So, except add Patrick Beverley at the so
Tristan
it's just
Thompson, Patrick Beverley, Goran Dragic, and Andre Drummond were a full year's worth of transactions.
So for me, it's like once they picked an aggressive path, and this is something I've written about consistently at BN, is like, my problem is picking an aggressive track, stopping in the middle of the road, and then if you stop, that's what you can't do in the NBA. You can't just stop, because if you're stopped in the middle of the highway, you're either going to hit, and then you're just it's a huge problem to end up in a crash course collision and it all blows up in your face, or you have to decide, I'm going to pull a U-turn and I'm going to go around. I'm going to go back. Yeah. So they either
you can't just be chilling on the shoulder.
No, you can't just be staying in the middle. So they either have to go ahead and, like you said, be aggressive, go after these superstars, or you have to say, all right, it's time to take a U-turn.
Emilio in the comments said, Jerry then called Acme to his office and told them to slow the reins. Look, the U-turn or the hard right turn would be doing something as bold as going after Dame and finding a way to get Dame here, and in that process likely giving up Zach LaVine amongst other pieces. See, like, this is where the conversation is heading. So, I mean, trigger warning, what do you think, Eli, about their essential plan of continuing #continuity with this core by their early offseason moves of re-signing Vooch to a multi-year deal to bring him back, re-signing Coby to a multi-year deal to bring him back, and then a little bit later, after a delay, also bringing back Ayo Dosunmu on a new contract. We'll get to the guys that actually did add to this roster, but first, what are your thoughts on them bringing all 3 of those guys back?
Well, first I want to say you did the #continuity. I think that's a good, for Joey or something, that's a good graphic you should throw up on the screen. A good, like,
but we don't want to use
#continuity.
It's triggering for Bulls fans.
That's fair.
For most Bulls fans, we don't like hearing the word continuity.
Right, that's fair. Well, it can come
definitely have had a continuity. There's no way we haven't had a continuity graphic.
It can come with a sad, like, trumpet noise or something. Like, it doesn't have to go with, it doesn't
whatever
have
that sound effect is when someone loses a Price is Right game.
Yeah, you just that sad trumpet with the continuity graphic. No, I think so for this offseason, see?
I always wanted like a Bulls
there we go.
Script T-shirt that says continuity instead of Chicago with like the cursive.
You guys do T-shirts? Where's that one? You guys got to make that one.
I pitched it.
You did pitch it? Okay, so
nobody liked that idea.
Shockingly,
I'm supposed to stick to my job.
Called a meeting just for that. No, I think for this offseason, I'll start with this. I think this was kind of an unpopular opinion, but I thought with the Nikola Vucevic situation, there was really nothing else they could do. I think it was, you kind of had to re-sign him. I didn't like the idea of just letting him walk just because, and that's just a me thing. I think in today's NBA, I don't like the idea of really letting anybody walk for nothing, right? Particularly players that are as good as Vucevic is, because people can be upset with him. People can, be a bit frustrated with what they've gotten ever since the trade. But you got to try to remove what they gave up in the trade for him. Just look at him in a vacuum. He's been a good player. He's been consistent, and that's not a guy that you want to just like walk out of the door for nothing.
He didn't make the trade.
He didn't make the trade, so that's what I always when he gets criticism for that, it's not his fault that the Bulls gave up what they did to get him. And if
depends on which Bulls fans you're asking, but yes, I agree with you.
and at the end of the day, like I said, he played 82 games last year. Yeah. He's averaged basically an identical, I think, 17.8 points, 11 rebounds for 2 years in a row now.
One of the best defensive rebounding percentages across the NBA for the last 2 years.
Yeah, he was third in double-doubles last year. So, like, you know what you're going to get. He's consistent. He's definitely a starting caliber center in the NBA, and you just had to keep him around. So $20 million a year is fine with the cap continuing to go up. Like, it is what it is. So for me, that was something they kind of had to do. And then as for, re-signing Coby, kind of the same thing for me. Like, young player, if I was ready heading into last season for Coby to be gone. And not ready meaning like I want him to be. It was just I was ready for that to be the outcome.
I think that's what most realist people observing the Bulls thought was the most likely outcome.
Right.
Didn't get the extension. Ayo had that, really strong rookie year, seizing that starting job when Lonzo went down. Exactly. And you're like, you kind of didn't see a spot of the puzzle where Coby fit.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought he was going to be on his way out, and to his credit, he played really well. And for a 23-year-old guard, like you have to invest in young talent, especially this team. They have to have some young pieces. So I think for them to re-sign him, it made sense. It was what it was. And then as the offseason went on, I thought with Ayo, he'd be the odd man out. They end up bringing him back as well. So none of the signings this offseason I had necessarily a problem with. And, I'm sure we'll talk about Jevon Carter and Torrey Craig, who I also think are both fine additions. But at the end of the day, it goes back to like the lack of aggression and making big moves, right? So, and just picking a path to continue forward with continuity. I think for me, my preferred path likely would have been taking a step back this offseason, cashing in on some of the great play that you got maybe from DeMar. I guess they were clearly out there, or at least it was reported that they were out there, looking into the Zach LaVine market and things like that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind if they took that step back, because I think we have kind of seen the ceiling of this group, and maybe I'll be wrong. But
especially this group without a healthy Lonzo Ball contributing.
Exactly. And while Jevon Carter is a great addition, they still don't have that primary facilitator on their team. And if there's a big issues for this offense this season, like we're going to turn our heads back to that they're missing out on that key distributor, unless DeMar can step back into what he was at the end of his Spurs tenure, and maybe Vooch gets more involved in that area. Like, the offense needs a lot of work.
Well, what makes you think that we should be worried about the Bulls offense this upcoming season, Eli? What are you talking about? I think there's no problems at all. Okay, let's talk about Billy for a second. Because people talk about the offensive talent of players like obviously Zach and DeMar and even Vooch. Offensive potential and growth that we saw out of Coby, even Pat last year, even though it's not what Bulls fans wanted, as much as what Bulls fans wanted, he increased his three-point attempt rate and maintained a 41% clip. Like, that's great. But they had the 24th or 25th, rated offense in the NBA. A lot of Bulls fans frustrated with the lack of creativity of that offense. What do you want to see Billy Donovan do differently, knowing that, yes, Jevon Carter's here, maybe he wins that starting point guard job over Coby White, but how does this ball move more, and how do we get more player movement off the ball? Because they had just a woefully predictable offense, if you could call it that, last year.
Well, I think, and I think Will did it, like Will, you posted on Twitter or whatever you guys want to call it, is you posted, some good stuff this morning. Just, I believe you posted the Spain pick and roll. You posted some split action, just like a little video showing off, that options to throw into the offense. And for me, like, that's the kind of mindset and thinking that I want Billy Donovan to have heading into this year. Is just, last year there was this idea of like, we're going to go in with randomness. That was what Billy's mindset was like free-flowing offense, push the tempo, and everybody's just kind of be moving around. And clearly that didn't happen. That's not what ended up working. And I think a lot of it was maybe because with randomness and free-flowing came like a lack of structure in some ways. It was like, we're just going to let athletes be athletes and see what we can do on that end of the floor. But I think there just needs to be more discipline on the offensive end, more designed action, things like you pointed out this morning on Twitter. Like, there needs to just be, like, if you want the off-ball movement, like, it needs to be designed. You need to be running designed work to get guys into their spots and get guys moving around, because they're clearly not doing it on their own. This is not a group that is, like, they're not. This isn't a team that we've seen role players just cutting to the basket like willingly. Like, a lot of them are just standing around. A lot
of standing and watching.
Yeah,
whether it's DeMar or Zach being the one on the ball, a lot of standing and watching.
Right, which is where I think like Torrey Craig is going to be actually a big addition for them. But yeah, I just think there actually needs to be, for there to be randomness and more off-ball movement, it needs to actually be a more disciplined offense. You need to actually have more designed plays that you're running, and so I just think it starts with that. I think it's with Billy, understanding that, yes, he's got three really talented offensive players, but organically, or naturally, they don't really fit together perfectly. So now he has to sit down and the three of them have to work together to design how that offense is going to work. So what we've seen the past 2 years is just letting them be scorers and letting them be their, who they are, isn't necessarily working to generate an efficient offense.
Yeah, it's a tough situation too, because like a lot of these teams, and DeMar said it in the past too, which is, if we lock in on defense, like, the offense will work itself out. I'm not worried about that end. But in reality, like, they were a top 10 defense, top 5 defense, and 24th in offense. And I think you're right when you say that, like, the fit between these guys just hasn't really worked. So they need to work together to try to find some solutions. And I'm not posting videos of, like, what's a split cut to teach Billy Donovan. Like,
right.
Everybody knows this is not like...
These are basic actions.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm positive he knows, like, what this stuff is. I'm not, like, trying to help him do his job. I'm just saying, like, if it's me, I feel like the Bulls could succeed in these areas. And this is the type of stuff that I'm going to be looking for when I'm watching film next year. And I think they have to be mindful of that as well. And when you look at the way that the offense works, like these guys all occupy the same places on the floor. Mm-hmm. So they need to like get the ball moving side to side. I mean, it's not like overly complicated, but I do think you're right that it has to be a little bit more intentional, and there needs to be a little bit more of a plan that they can buy into, because I think when things didn't work out, they just defaulted back to what do they do best, which is DeMar elbow jump shots and Zach mid-range fadeaways. And like I think they had the third highest field goal percentage in the league last year, in the entire league, but they were still 24th in offense. Like something's wrong that's making that happen. They need to like.
I think what that is like representative of is kind of what we just said, which is no one's denying that these are three very gifted, talented offensive players. Like these are three guys that on their own are pretty efficient. And Vucevic just had a career high in effective field goal percentage last season. So, like these three on their own, no one's denying that they can score efficiently. You see it as a team. They have a high field goal percentage, a high effective field goal percentage, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a good offense. We see it all the time with a big three of James Harden, like Durant and Kyrie. And like, well, that one was better when they were on the floor together. It's just and we'll see this year with Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and Durant. Like, yes, you can have a very talented like trio, and you can have very talented individual players, but there is something to having them all fit together, and that goes back to why Lonzo was so important. Like he was that piece that made sure they were all going to get a little bit of, they were going to get their food, they were going to make sure they were fed in the right spots on the floor. And without that, it's just like, all right, you go do what you do best and just focus on that, but you're not focusing on what you can do offensively as a team. So, and the last thing that I'll kind of say offensively that I really want to see is not only do I think DeMar can pull back his shot volume a little bit and be able to act as that distributor that we saw him do, and he's given Greg Popovich a ton of credit for teaching him how to be that kind of point forward. I think that's a big thing for Vucevic to do as well. Like Vucevic is a very talented passer, high level decision maker. One of the his touch time's always super low, and he's always getting assists because they pass him into the middle, and he always makes the right read. Right. So for me, that's an area, and I think the split action that Will posted online this morning speaks to that. Is he's somebody that you can kind of use in the middle of the floor and then have everybody else moving around, and he's going to find the right guy, and he's going to be able to spray out to the right guy. So I just think Vucevic as a facilitator is a piece there that they can use a little bit more of. Well,
we've been doing these prove it segments for setting individual goals for players this upcoming season, and Will and I, without knowing each other's answers until we did the show that day, both picked for Vooch increasing his assist percentage because we like when Vooch facilitates to a certain degree in the Bulls offense. Right. Because the ball moves more and you find open looks more. We got to take one more break here. We'll continue talking with our guy Eli from Bleacher Nation Bulls about the Bulls offseason and the season ahead on the other side. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Splash Sports. CHGO has a weekly pickaxe and NFL Survivor contest for everyone to participate for real money, actual dollars. Here's how to enter. Just head to splashsports.com/CHGO. You can see the link in our description if you're watching on YouTube, and sign up. Deposit cash to get started, and all you need is $10 to enter either of these contests that we're running all NFL season. CHGO Weekly NFL Pick X contest and the CHGO Survivor contest. The more who enter, the larger that prize grows. We'll be running weekly contests all year, so be sure to keep that link handy. Maybe you want to run your own contest. You can do that too as soon as you create an account at Splash Sports. Maybe you're tired of being the commissioner of your season-long fantasy league. Speaking from existence, I'm the commissioner of both my leagues. It's exhausting. What's the thanks I get? Nothing. Play Splash Sports instead. You don't have to chase people down for the buy-in. You can sign up to be a commissioner right through this Splash Sports link on YouTube and earn money for the contests you're already running with your friends and family. It's that simple. Head to splashsports.com/CHGO to join in. We'll have different contests coming out. We're stoked to compete with and against you all season long. Be sure to click that link in the description. Splash Sports!
It's a rainy day outside right now, guys, but it's supposed to get sunny later on this week, and you know what that means. You got to go grab your Shady Rays, because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've ever worn. durable frames, and extremely clear optics for your outdoor adventures. But that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses, every pair is backed by the Lost and Broken Replacement Plan. That's the Matt Peck signature. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they said they will send you a free brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence, because even if you throw them off your head because they're sitting on your hat, they will back you with the Lost and Broken Replacement Plan. If you don't love your Shady Rays, you can also exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There is no risk when you shop. Shady Rays always has you covered. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of premium polarized sunglasses. Matt,
Try it for yourself.
thank you. Try it for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Shady Rays. Where the Rays are so shady.
Oh, so damn shady.
That's my line. Try for yourself was my line, by the way.
I'm
You
just trying
tossed
to
it
mix
to
it
me.
up.
Maybe he was
Everybody's-
looking at you,
everybody's gotta be ready.
Joey multitask over there. Wasn't sure if he'd be ready for it.
Oh, I'm always ready. Born ready.
All right, hit me with a Joe.
No, I'll do it tomorrow.
Wow.
I'll do it
See
when
that
Dave's
toss?
back.
You just hit him with the Ayo pump fake, and nice toss.
I think he was aiming for it to land on my head.
What, the IO
so.
pump fake, Bradley Beal, attack right away? No hesitancy?
I was gonna, whatever, record scratch. On to the next.
What? All right, so Eli, these newcomers, Jevon Carter and Torrey Craig, we've kind of touched on briefly what both of them can bring to the table. When it comes to Bulls fans wanting to see a better, more modern and effective NBA offense this season, we know what they could both bring on the defensive end. Jevon Carter, great perimeter defender. Torrey Craig, versatile defender at that wing spot and can guard multiple positions. Do you have faith that their presence and their addition to Billy's rotation this season can substantially increase the productivity of this offense that stalled so many times last year?
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on what your definition of substantially is, but I do think that this team will be a better team overall from what we saw last year. I think the basketball will be better. I think, yes, the offensive end is going to be better, and a big reason for that is, I think with Jevon Carter, what you have to look at with that addition, while he might not be the primary facilitator that you're looking at the point guard position, and who knows if he even ends up starting. I would start him in that spot just because I think he fits well next to the big three. But my thing with him is that not only does he fit in defensively, like you brought up, as somebody who just will naturally help. Especially next to Caruso, he will give you a little bit of what like Lonzo was able to give you on that end defensively, while he's not nearly as big or multi-positional as Lonzo is. Like we said, he's an on-ball pest. He's somebody who plays great perimeter defense, and he's going to help turn defense into offense, which is the big thing, right? Like helping them get out and transition more, which I know is something I think that Billy talked about he wants to do, and something they should do. And
something that Lonzo did very well.
Right, and something that Lonzo did really well. But that's something that the past couple of years that they, this is a very good transition team, even without Lonzo on the floor, just because of how talented Zach is in transition. Kobe's obviously very quick. Honestly, that's Ayo's biggest strength is when he's able to get out in the fast break. Patrick Williams can be a good transition threat. So I think Jevon's going to help in that sense, is be able to turn defense into offense. But also, I just think his three-point shooting is something. Like, this team has so few options to shoot the three that just adding somebody like him, even when you might look at it, there's probably some fans that went and looked at the basketball reference page for Jevon Carter and they were like, well, he doesn't shoot that many threes or whatever, but that you have to go back and just watch who he is and who he is as a player. Like, he can get that volume up a little bit. He can still shoot around 40% in my opinion. So just having somebody there who they can spray out to and rely on is going to be important. And specifically, again, in transition, I think he's a really good pull-up three-point maker. So in transition, being able to run and then have him run to the corner or just run to the wing and then shoot it right away. Kobe was really the only guy that could do that, and Zach, I guess.
Right,
but
yeah.
they didn't have somebody else. So him, on that sense, I think will be important. And then Torrey Craig, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I think Torrey Craig is a great addition in the sense that he does all those little things offensively where he's going to help on the offensive glass a lot. He's always cutting. I'm going to have a post out sometime soon just kind of pointing out what Torrey Craig does on that end of the floor in terms of always cutting the basket, always fought like trailing a guy in transition. He gets so many offensive rebounds and putbacks.
Such a good offensive rebounder.
Yeah,
I don't think people are prepared for this.
No, they don't understand, because if you can just go,
Never
and that's
understood.
what I hope to hope to show with like the post is that, or like to write a post about it, just because what he did for Phoenix last year, like this is a guy that was getting so many putbacks because he just sneaks up. He's always like behind the arc, and then the moment the shot goes up, he sprints to the basket, and he's right there to try to sneak like over a guy to get the board and put it right back in. So I just think he's going to be a huge help on that end of the floor, just getting the Bulls some extra possessions. And then, like we said, his three-point shooting is also pretty good. It gives them another option. I'm not as high just because last season was a career high for him. He hasn't been as consistent throughout his career as Jevon Carter has been shooting the three. So it might be a little streaky, but he is another option to hit that.
This is more of a maybe philosophical question, but like with this whole continuity thing that the Bulls have been running back for now, this is going to be the third season. And also with some new names in here in the mix, some new players I think are going to play a lot and hopefully contribute at a high level. Do you think that like it's possible to teach an old dog new tricks, so to speak, and like have some meaningful changes to the offense with like maybe a new dynamic with offensive rebounding or pull up 3-point transition shooting? Or is it just going to be like an enhanced version of some of the same stuff that we've seen?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question. I think it's like a yes and no is my answer in terms of can you teach a dog, new tricks. I think that because the overarching premise for me is like I do think we kind of know what this core is capable of, what they can do, what their ceiling is in a lot of ways, but can they change how the offense works? Like, sure, I think they'll have moments of slipping into their old ways and slipping into, some ISO heavy ball, especially at my concern is more fourth quarter play, crunch time. Like, what's that going to look like? Are they disciplined enough to, keep running the offense, whatever offensive changes they make? Can they have that translate into crunch time, or is it going to be DeMar, just being DeMar, and which isn't always an issue because he is, he's a king of the fourth. He can make some clutch shots for you. But I think consistency is just going to be the big thing. Is will we see these changes? Are there going to be some nights early on in the season, I think, where we're like, oh my God, like this is a team that's, chucking up more threes. They're knocking down. Oh, this is like the offense looks so fun tonight. This is what we all wanted it to be. Like, I think we'll have those nights and we'll have those moments just because it will be in the game plan. And I think they have made clear that we are going to shoot more. We are going to run things a little bit differently. But is there that consistency? Is it happening throughout the season? When times get hard and they're in those close games, what is their offense looking like? That's my big question.
Yeah, because the Bulls went from 2 seasons ago being a team that won a lot of clutch games to last season dropping damn near every one of them.
What do you make of that?
To go from being to beating a bunch of good teams and losing to bad teams?
No, the clutch stuff. I mean, they were like 25 and 16 in clutch games 2 years ago, and then
right.
I don't know what the record
basically
was.
The reverse of that
the reverse
this past season.
What I think it just, I guess what it speaks to is it goes back to the consistency standpoint, and also just you can. I'm trying to think of the right words I want to use for this, but like with DeRozan, right? Like DeRozan's very good in crunch time. He's a very clutch player, right? But if that's like your only option, if he's I guess it's not their only option, but it's primarily what they would do.
Yeah.
One season it's going to be great, and the next season it's not going to be as good because also teams figure you out. They go like, well, DeRozan's their whole thing at the end here. Like, let's just stack up on him. I also think last year was kind of strange because we saw Levine kind of want to get in the mix more in the fourth quarter, and he should be. I'm not saying he shouldn't be, but he's, he tries to take over and he's like forcing some shots because he's like, I feel like I need to make an impact in the fourth quarter. So I just think it goes, that's what happens when like you have one guy that does that job for you, which DeMar was 2 years ago. And while he was great for a season, it's like, is that sustainable to always have one person be who isn't, I guess, a superstar, it's not like you're going to Giannis in every moment and you're not going to this person. It's just, I don't know. I think about DeMar a lot like as a closer in like baseball. Like closers are gonna have hot and cold seasons, and they're gonna have some things are gonna change, and that's what I always felt like when the fourth quarter started. It was like
they might run out of gas if you pitch them 4 innings for every single game of a 7-game World Series.
So you're gonna have some inconsistent results if you just keep relying on the same thing to save you over and over again. And to Billy's credit, I think he kind of said that. He's like going into last year, he kind of knew that they couldn't just have that be the way.
Right. And like I think there was a 9-game winning streak amongst that, just hot start out of the gate 2 years ago that had them, coming into All-Star break, neck and neck with Miami for the number 1 seed in the East. A lot of those games could have gone either way.
Right.
And so many of them went the Bulls' way, and it was even just beyond the DeMar actual buzzer-beating game winners, which were great and wild fun for Bulls fans in their own right, but fourth quarters where it was like, oh, DeMar, we're going to need 14 from you in this fourth quarter, and he would go get them 14. Anyone expecting a full duplication of that the year following was kidding themselves.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's I think that's just what it comes down to is like, and like you said, there was so many close games that they won, which helped their crunch time stats and their clutch stats. Is in the 2 years ago they were pulling off those 1-2 point games. Yeah. And last year they weren't, and it goes down to like the margin for error is just not very big with this team, and that's how far the stats can swing, right? When you're losing those games and when things aren't going your way.
Refs have it out for you, and
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't want to talk about that Donovan Mitchell 70 burger. That still stinks. I feel like I wasn't
if
as
the ref made the right call.
Loudly complaining about NBA officiating as plenty of Bulls fans were last season, but that one still stinks. One more quick shout out to a couple of sponsors. We'll come back and wrap things up with Eli, getting some of his thoughts on this gauntlet of a schedule the Bulls have out of the gate, which he wrote about for Bleacher Nation Bulls the other day. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Circle K, whose new free app you should be downloading right now if you haven't already. Join the Circle K Inner Circle to get perks on top of perks on top of perks for your thirst, for your gasolina needs, and all your delicious snacks. Save 25 cents a gallon on your first 5 fill-ups once you download that free Circle K app and join the Inner Circle. Is that Joe?
Pow.
Pow?
Yeah.
Okay.
For 25 cents per gallon for the first 5 fill-ups. Pow.
Is Pow Gasol a big fan of that?
This is the Joey Show.
No.
Joey multitask.
I'm excited about that for our listeners.
He's still bitter that you didn't throw it to him for try it for yourself. That's what that was.
Well, Dave's not here, so I got to assert myself here in the ad-libs for the reads. Pa!
It's all right. Will is not going to be here Thursday, and I'm just going to have me and a guest. So if you want to do some ads on Thursday, Joey, you are more than welcome.
Well, I would love to do ads.
Please do.
Finally. Get some recognition for my ad reading skills.
After you read those ads on our Thursday show, our guy Joey's going to stop at his nearest Circle K to fill up his gas tank, get a bunch of delicious snacks, and some fresh beverages, hot or cold, coffees or sodas. Every 6th item you get between Circle K's hot and ready pizza slices, their coffee, their cold fountain drinks, every 6th one you're getting for free. Plus that 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. What are you waiting for? That's just money in your pocket. Download that Circle K app today and join the Inner Circle.
Hey, Joseph.
Well,
can you hit me with the quack quack?
Quack quack. Yeah, I can.
There's quack quack quack, Mr. Ducksworth.
Quack quack, because Goose Island.
Oh, you mean Hong Kong?
You should be going to look for if you're at Circle K.
Hello.
Because they're the official beer of CHGO and Chicago's beer since 1988. They've got a great lineup of beers. They've got Oktoberfest, Beer Hug Family, 312 Wheat Ale, and of course the full pocket pills that Matt Peck just put on display there. It's an everyday beer, and it's what the brewers are drinking. Grab an ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beer at the Goose Island Original Brewhouse on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from the tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown near us. Goose Island beer, Chicago's beer, CHGO's beer.
It's our beer.
It's our beer.
It's our beer, and
quack,
we're
quack.
not enough
One more
of them
time with the quack quack
on Bear Sunday.
There it is.
It's honk honk. It's honk honk.
It's the quack quack.
They don't quack. Geese don't quack.
Geese don't quack.
Right,
that would be ducks.
Then hit me with the honk.
I'll be honest with
Mallards,
you.
if you will.
Oh, I'm on camera. I don't know how that happened.
Hey, Joe. What's up?
Speaking of Joey being on camera, do you hear about our little thing on Friday?
What?
No.
For your HQ?
Yeah.
No, what happened?
We had a StreamYard incident. End screen played. Computer timed out. Me and Mark are talking. Me and Mark and Will are, good show. I'm like, oh, we're still live. We had a couple of the diehards in there.
Was anything said
No, we were
Thinking
just
you had
thing that we
gone
said
off air
was-
that
No, we
shouldn't have
said,
been
we got a
wow,
show
I
under
can't
1
believe
hour.
we did the show under an hour, which if anything
always
is
going
good
like
for
an
the
hour and
fans.
10
You know, we
minutes.
always,
Yeah, that's
fans
always
know
cool.
that we push out the content.
We
But,
always say tie 45, and we end up going an hour 5.
yeah. Yep.
Sorry,
That's, we always got a lot to
Missing
talk
that
about.
show.
But yes, not my proudest moment, but it
was
was
actually my
user
proudest
error.
moment.
It was user error.
It was fantastic.
Well, I
great
mean,
content.
It happens. It could have been worse.
way to own up to that user error. It's big man stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so Eli, you wrote a great column breaking down the Bulls' first 25 games of their schedule for Bleacher Nation Bulls a few days ago, and I looked at it and I of course, as soon as the schedule drop happened, I went and looked through it and I was like, okay, and then I realized just how difficult that opening of the schedule is. Mm-hmm. You got to play the defending Eastern Conference champion Heat 4 times.
Yep.
You got the Bucks 2 or 3 times in there. The defending NBA champion Nuggets twice. You got to play the new trifecta in Phoenix. You got to play the Celtics. Luka and the Mavs are in there. And not only did you just lay out how challenging the schedule is, but you were kind of saying, we're going to learn a lot about this team in the first third of the season and where we go from here. Are you saying that as someone who is worried that gauntlet of a schedule will have the Bulls reeling and struggling to stay afloat in a packed Eastern Conference? Is that a realistic possibility you see playing out in this first challenging 25 games?
I mean, absolutely, because I just think we saw it last year. I just think I don't know. I don't know what to expect with this team coming out of the gate, and the fact that things are as difficult as they are right out of the gate, it should be a tad worrisome. And I think it's never a bad thing to get tested early. I understand that. I think that was the way it was a little bit last year, and people were excited that it was that way, unlike 2 years ago when they had an easy schedule to start. But personally, I would take an easy schedule to start 10 times out of 10. I just think it's beginning for any sport.
Bank some
football,
wins, man.
Yeah, for football, we see it. We see it all the time in the NFL. I just think for any sport, if you can starting the year, guys are still getting into game shape. Guys are still, getting a feel for new teammates and things like that. Even if it's continuity, #continuity, then, you're still getting a feel for how Jevon Carter, Torrey Craig fit into things. And you want some games against the Pistons. You want some games against, some lower level Eastern Conference teams to come out of the gate. So I think for that, and it's not that the Bulls don't have that this year. If you look at the first 5 games, there are some easy ones in there. But Oklahoma City is by no means an easy game to start off the year.
We lost to them twice last year.
Exactly.
They had the same exact end of season that the Bulls did.
Right.
I mean, they lost in the play-in.
Yeah,
They're a good team.
They're very good. They're young, which that was specifically the kind of team last year that gave the Bulls major trouble. They could compete against these veteran top of the Eastern Conference, but these really young, high energy, scrappy teams, they were not matching their intensity. Oh, there you go.
Hold on, let me play the sound.
You got your screen, you got your graphic.
It was worth it.
Yeah, that's what you need right there. Yeah, that's good. But I just think I definitely there should be some worry about how they start the beginning of the season here. Like we said, they play the Heat 4 times, the Bucks 3 times. This is within 25 games. They play the Nuggets twice. They play the Suns. They play the Celtics. So while the first beginning there is, after the Thunder, they got Toronto, Detroit, Indiana. Opportunity maybe there to get, to bank a few wins. But after that, you play Luka, and then 2 games later you play Jokic, and then 2 games after that you play Booker and Durant, and so 2 games after that you play Giannis. So it's every 2 games to begin the first 25 is really tough. And I know that the last thing I'll say is it started a downpour.
Nice.
Get
Get the buckets.
I feel like that's poetic for what we're talking about at the moment, but.
Symbolic.
The last thing I want to point out about that is just, I point out in this post that it's the 9th hardest strength of schedule to start the season, something we should take into account. That's via Positive Residual, which is a great site that kind of maps out schedule, which I'm sure you guys have mentioned before. Yes, strength of schedule is not the most trustworthy stat before the season starts because obviously things can change.
Right.
But I do think when you go and you match it up with the actual 25 games, it kind of passes the eye test because there's, like I said, every 2 games you're playing like a superstar and you're playing someone really hard, and nothing's ever easy in the NBA. But if you look at the schedule after those 25 games, things definitely get a lot easier, I think, for the Bulls. So, and that's one worry that I expressed in this post is I would be very worried if, because things get easy, they head into the All-Star break, or not the All-Star break, but the trade deadline, with a few wins.
Feeling good about
feeling
themselves.
good because they're like, oh, look at this. Like, we struck together some wins. I'm going to go back to those first 25 games and look at the record during those first 25 games, because that's when I think the front office needs to do their evaluating, and when they really need to take things into account.
We do know, based on evidence, that this particular front office doesn't have a problem citing little mini stretches where they win more games than they lose.
That is very
true.
Which
is how they justify
14-9 post All-Star.
We love the 14-9, don't we, folks?
Exactly.
If they do get out to this slow start, obviously, and like we heard from plenty of y'all doing our post games all last season, a lot of Bulls fans feel like it's not necessarily that the pieces can't fit together, but that Billy Donovan, the man leading this team, is not pushing the right buttons or putting the chess pieces on the chessboard in the correct ways. We know that he got a secret extension that then became a publicly known extension, along with the front office getting similar secret and then publicly known extensions. Do you think Billy Donovan deserves to be on a hot seat from the national NBA media landscape if they do struggle out of the gate and you see a similarly monotonous bang your head against a brick wall kind of offense?
I think, like you said, it's hard to know where Billy Donovan stands within the organization, because he got that quiet extension. He clearly is very involved in the decision making of the front office and in those conversations. So, in terms of looking at through that lens, I have no idea where he would stand if the team disappoints again, because the front office might view it as he's like one of us, he's part of this, so maybe they finally decide to blow up the team, but they're like, well, but Billy's part of that, and he's going to make us redesign this roster. So, that I don't really know, but the other thing is maybe he doesn't want to do that. Like, he didn't want to do a rebuild initially when he left Oklahoma City. That was the big thing.
Right.
And that's why Chicago was aggressive early on, was they're going to get Billy, but then we're going to get players that can win now. So my question would be, if they do take a step back, maybe naturally Billy would say, all right, this is a time for me to leave, and you guys get a younger coach or some coach that can work through a rebuild. So I just wonder, from his perspective, if this team struggles, not only should he be on the hot seat, probably, because everybody should be, like, everybody, the whole organization's got questions they need to answer.
Yeah.
But will he even want to stick around if they do go in another direction? Because the first time he left Oklahoma City, that was the point. He doesn't want to be there for a rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that stood out to me from just talking to Billy last year was, like, he, I think, was intrigued by the opportunity to work closely with a front office. And I don't think he was, like, throwing shade at Sam Presti from his relationship working together in Oklahoma City. But, like, clearly he has a good partnership with Mark and AK. And I don't know that he's, like, in the war room, like, making calls on trades at the trade deadline with those guys. But he's clearly involved in what kind of a team do we want to put together, and how can I maximize that group? So I don't think Billy's going anywhere. I don't think he's the biggest problem with this team. I don't think you can, like, really criticize a coach who put together a top 5 defense with DeMar, Zach, and Vooch on the floor for the most minutes of any trio in the entire league.
Yeah, agreed.
I think there's a lot of other problems that the Bulls are trying to address right now. They did that with Jevon Carter and Torrey Craig. Like, they're trying to figure things out. Ultimately, it's the top 3 guys need to be better. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
We are about out of time. Real quick, how many wins this season, Eli?
Oh my gosh.
Or let's start with this. Over under the 37.5 that they're
I will go
projected.
over on that.
Okay,
and pretty comfortably.
And now
same.
And
That's
now back to
step
Matt's
one.
question.
Comfortably over 37.5.
Yeah, I just
How
think,
many over is the question?
Yeah, I think their floor is high enough just to be over that. And I do think, like I said, Jevon and Torrey will make a slight difference. I think they win more than 40 as opposed to last year. If they, assuming that they don't do, like, a sell-off of any kind.
I think that 37.5 number bakes in some chance.
I would agree. Oh, 100%. It 100% bakes in
a fire sale. But at the same time, like, all these rumors that we're hearing about the Bulls this summer, it's like, trade Zach for another good player so that you don't have to go down again. Like, trade for they don't want to go backwards. They want to be competitive. So
Right.
I agree. I think
Yeah, I just think for me it would be 40 is like would have been my over under just because I think combining what they did the past 2 years.
That's where they were last year.
So I would just settle for I'll settle for slightly over 500 because I think that's where their ceiling would lie. So why don't we just go with 43 wins, like 43, 44, and I think they can be a 7 seed.
That's when our guy Hayes from Bulls Central, Chicago Bulls Central, asked me for my prediction earlier this summer. I said 43 and 39. I can give them a few more wins than 40 and 42 with the talent that they've added and the fact that hopefully they win a few more of those close games than they did last year. Hopefully don't blow as many of those games against inferior opponents as they did last year.
Yeah, agreed.
We are out of time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Apologize for the late start. Busy day at the CHGO studios today. Keep an eye. You'll find out why in due time. It's exciting stuff. In the meantime, if you weren't already, what are you waiting for? Get on that amazing content for Bulls fans that Eli and his team are doing over there at Bleacher Nation Bulls. You can follow Eli on Twitter at Schuster_Elias BN_Bulls for all of that Bulls content. 24/7, 365, just like we give you here at CHGO. It was so nice for you to come to the studio, man. Appreciate chat. We got to run it. We crossed paths at Bulls Fest briefly, but it's long overdue. Glad to have you here in studio with us, man.
Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I'm always even on September 19th. I'm more than happy to talk about the Chicago Bulls. So I appreciate being here.
It's a great day to be talking Bulls.
Just 3 guys that never stop talking about the Bulls. So I appreciate it, and you guys do great work here. So thank you for having me on.
One of us. Eli Schuster, everybody. We are back tomorrow, same time, same place, 4 p.m. Central Time in studio. Talking more Bulls, maybe a few more Eastern Conference previews. For our panel producer, Joey Spathis, Will the Goat Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb, our guest, Elias Schuster, Schuster_Elias. I'm Bulls Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, Bulls Nation, thanks for tuning in. Hit that thumb. See you, Red. Be good.